Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we're diving into part 2 of the moments in the Harry Potter universe that everyone remembers, but remembers wrong. A major contributor to this being the films. In adapting the books to the big screen, the filmmakers took plenty of creative liberties. Personalities were altered, entirely new scenes were invented, character roles were switched, and whole sections of the books were simply cut. And over time, some of these changes blurred the lines between book and film so much that, for many fans, they've fused into a single version of the story. Today I'm here to set the record straight and clear up some of the most persistent movie-fueled myths, and revisit what actually happened according to Canon. I suspect that some of these might be small details you never noticed. Others might completely change the way you remember certain characters or events. If you haven't seen part 1 already, I'll leave a link in the description and pinned comment. Anyway, let's dive into it. Hermione Smart, Ron Dumb. In the films, Hermione is portrayed as the all-knowing, infallible problem solver, spouting details about wizarding culture she realistically wouldn't know, while Ron is effectively reduced to comic relief, a bumbling sidekick who seems clueless even about his own world. In the books, however, the dynamic is far more balanced. Hermione excels in magical theory and academics, but she lacks broader cultural knowledge of the wizarding world and isn't particularly effective under pressure in a duel or dangerous situation. Ron, while a bit tactless and less polished than Hermione, is roughly on par with both her and Harry in magical skill. In the Philosopher's Stone, for example, there are several times in the novel that Ron does something bright, like take out the troll in the bathroom. In the movies, he requires much help from the others to even do that. He also somehow manages to hit himself in the face with a broom during a flying lesson in the first film, despite having grown up in a wizarding household, which presumably had this magical item. Moments like this are purely cinematic inventions designed for slapstick. They don't reflect book Ron's actual competence. And while I'm on that topic, might I also just say that the movies took away almost every instance of Ron being the trio's Wizarding World expert, when he got to share his knowledge of magic with Harry and Hermione, who had both grown up in Muggle homes. In the books, he's the one explaining Quidditch rules, wizarding candy, pure-blood families, and magical customs. In the films, all of these lines and moments are given to Hermione, making her seem like an omniscient authority on both magical theory and wizard culture. Finally, in the books, Ron is actually a pretty funny and quick-witted character, cracking jokes and providing wonderful comic relief. And while yes, you may find movie Ron funny, I'd be willing to guess that you find him humorous because of all the stupid things he does or incredibly silly expressions he makes. The fact is that while he is technically comic relief in both depictions of his character, the films took away Ron's humor and quick wit, replacing it with an over-exaggerated goofiness that you could laugh at rather than with. The end result is a distorted trio dynamic. In the books, Ron contributes practical knowledge, strategic thinking, and cultural insight. In the films, those traits are erased and reassigned, leaving him as the bumbling friend along for the ride. If you want a full deep dive on the assassination of Ron's character, let me know in the comments. James Potter's Quidditch position. Many fans have gone through life believing that James Potter, Harry's dad, was a seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. This is all thanks to the movies, as at one point we see James's name in the Quidditch trophy case with Seeker printed above his name. Also, in the films, Oliver Wood says to Harry, "Your father would have been proud. He was a seeker too." But in the books, James was actually a chaser, not a seeker. And this has been confirmed multiple times by J.K. Rowling, including on her old website and in interviews. The reason for this change? Well, probably to make the audience believe that James had even more parallels to Harry than he really did. Bit of a weird one, if you ask me. Tri-Wizard tasks. Goblet of Fire got a lot of things wrong, and this is probably in large part due to the fact that the film's director, Mike Newell, never even read the books. Scenes that definitely should have been included were cut, and scenes that didn't really need to be included were left in. One of the best examples of this, the Tri-Wizard hedge maze. In the films, the hedge maze was little more than a hedge labyrinth that closes in on you until you reach the Tri-Wizard Cup. But in the book, the third task is far more elaborate. The maze is filled with obstacles and magical creatures designed to test the champion's courage, intelligence, and magical skill. Things like a blast-ended Scroot, a boggart in the form of a Dementor, a giant spider, and most memorably, a Sphinx, who poses Harry a riddle before allowing him to pass. It had the body of an overlarge lion, great clawed paws, and a long yellowish tail ending in a brown tuft. Its head, however, was that of a woman. She turned her long, almond-shaped eyes upon Harry as he approached. The Sphinx's riddle is a key moment in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire that tests the wit and intelligence of the Triwizard Tournament's contestants. The riddle is as follows. First, think of the person who lives in disguise, who deals in secrets and tells naught but lies. Next, tell me what's always the last thing to mend, the middle of middle and end of the end. And finally, give me the sound often heard during the search for a hard-to-find word. Now string them together and answer me this. Which creature would you be unwilling to kiss? It has been reported that the Sphinx's riddle was omitted from the film due to time constraints. Detention. In the Philosopher's Stone film, Harry, Hermione, Neville and Draco are sent off into the Forbidden Forest for detention after being caught out of bed at night. They're split into two groups by Hagrid and tasked with tracking down whatever has been killing unicorns. However, many fans mistakenly believe Ron was there too, and that's because he appears there in the films. But in the book, Ron actually doesn't go into the forest at all, as he's in the hospital wing recovering from a bite from Norberta. "It bit me," he said, showing them his hand, which was wrapped in a bloody handkerchief. "I'm not going to be able to hold a quill for a week. I tell you, that dragon's the most horrible animal I've ever met." Instead, it's Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Draco. And interestingly, movie Ron effectively replaces Neville. "I'm disgusted," said Professor McGonagall. 4 students out of bed in one night. I've never heard of such a thing before. You, Miss Granger, I thought you had more sense. As for you, Mr. Potter, I thought Gryffindor meant more to you than this. All 3 of you will receive detentions. Yes, you too, Mr. Longbottom. Nothing gives you the right to walk around school at night, especially these days. It's very dangerous, and 50 points will be taken from Gryffindor. While this is just a small change, it's just the sort of thing that can cause even the most seasoned fans to misremember the source material. Lavender Brown. There are a couple of things wrong with Lavender Brown's character in the films, both of which float rather ambiguously in the minds of fans. The first being whether or not she survives the Battle of Hogwarts. Lavender bravely fought in the battle, there's no question, but she certainly didn't escape unscathed, and many fans even believe that she died. 2 bodies fell from the balcony overhead. As they reached the ground, a grey blur that Harry took for an animal sped 4-legged across the hall to sink its teeth into one of the fallen. "No!" shrieked Hermione, and with a deafening blast from her wand, Fenrir Greyback was thrown backward from the feebly stirring body of Lavender Brown. After falling off of a balcony, Lavender was brutally attacked by the bloodthirsty werewolf Fenrir Greyback, known in particular for his animalistic brutality. In the films, it's rather clear that Lavender dies. It's not really up for debate. She falls off of a balcony and then gets savaged by a werewolf. But in the books, things aren't quite so straightforward. The last we hear of her is that her body is feebly stirring, yet it never explicitly says she died. So if we're going strictly by book canon, then it's technically possible that Lavender survived. Do I personally think so? No. But is it technically wrong to say that she definitely died? Yes. The next and less major issue regarding Lavender is her hair colour. It's widely believed that Lavender is blonde, likely because in Half-Blood Prince she was played by Jessie Cave, an actress with light blonde hair. However, in the books, the descriptions of her appearance, including her hair colour, are almost non-existent. She could be a blonde, but we don't know, and while this may just be a small detail, it's a good example of how a visual casting choice can stick in fans' minds as fact, even when the source material leaves it open-ended. Anyway, that's it for today's video. What examples can you think of? I've got lots more of these ready, so let me know in the comments if you want more. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and to forget to live